Good morning, class. Today we're focusing on finishing the writing of John Burroughs. So our objectives are, again, identifying key details in our text and using those key details to determine the main idea, and then writing a main idea statement to demonstrate our understanding of what is happening. So let's begin. We left off, if you remember, with John Burroughs, and we had a summary letting us know about his life. So we had John Burroughs was interested in nature from the time he was young. This interest led him to focus on nature in his writing as an adult. Then we have John Burroughs writes about nature in such a way that he gives animals human qualities. And then over here, for this part, we had the chipmunk spends all winter hunkered down in his nest. When it's spring, he wakes up. He's a clean, nervous little guy, though, who likes to run back to his den when he's afraid. So we're going to pick up with this story of the chipmunk and see what we can add as our key details. So starting in paragraph 10 is where we're going to pick up. So let me get my draw tools ready, starting right here. Burroughs now describes his main character, the chipmunk, by describing his actions. Note, though, that Burroughs, as a storyteller, is part of the story too. I was much amused one October in watching a chipmunk carry nuts and other food into its den. He had made a well-defined path from his door out through the weeds and dry leaves into the territory where his feeding ground lay. The path was a crooked one. It dipped under weeds, under some large, loosely piled stones, under a pile of chestnut posts, then followed the remains of an old wall. So what do we notice here? We notice that in this paragraph, the chipmunk has made a path. The path, it must lead somewhere important. Burroughs writes that it goes to the chipmunk's feeding ground, so I'm going to underline this. So that's probably where this path is going. Made a well-defined path to his feeding ground. So that's where my chipmunk's most likely going. So let's continue on paragraph 13. Going and coming, his motions were like clockwork. He would pause a breath with one foot raised, slip quickly a few yards over some dry leaves, pause again by a stump beside the path, rush across the path to a loose pile of stones, go under the first and over the second, gain the pile of posts, make his way through that, survey his course a half moment from the other side of it, and then dart on to some other cover, and presently beyond my range, where I think he gathered acorns, as there is no other nut-bearing trees than oaks near. So what do I notice in this paragraph? When the chipmunk travels the path and gets to his feeding ground, he gathers acorn for his food. I'm going to underline this part because it's telling me that's probably what he's going to eat. That's our key detail. I think he gathered acorns. Now, one other thing I want you to notice is this whole paragraph is a run-on sentence. There's a comma, 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 comma. But no one hears there's a period. And the reason why Burroughs did that is he's trying to create like a sense of urgency. Commas tell us to take a breath, but the sentence isn't done. So it's like that chipmunk, he's running around, rushing, taking a breath, then scurrying to the next spot. Off to paragraph 15. In 4 or 5 minutes, I would see him coming back, always keeping rigidly to the course he took going out. Pause at the same spots, darting over under the same objects, clearing out of bound the same pile of leaves. There's no variation in his manner of proceeding all the time I observed. So this part right here, this word, I'm going to circle, and it's saying there's no variation. That means there's no change in how he proceeded, no change in how he went about his work. He always kind of did that same thing, searching for acorns darting about. So we have these key details here that we have discussing our chipmunk. So we're going to take them and we're going to write our summary. So let me get our part ready right here. And what I have for our summary is this. I have John Burroughs describes how a chipmunk works hard gathering acorns from his feeding ground. Because that's really what this paragraph is talking about. His working hard, this poor little chipmunk. So now let's head on to our next paragraph, our next page, number 16. I need to zoom out a bit so we can see it all at the same time. Here we go. And we have a picture of John Burroughs fishing in Yellowstone National Park. So let's keep going. Paragraph 16. A good storyteller, and notice how this part right here is not in italicized. So this means it's not the chipmunk, it's not the excerpt, It's the author of John Burroughs telling us what's going to happen next. Oops, there we go. A good storyteller must do more than craft appealing characters. Burroughs fills his writing with drama. It is the natural excitement found in the wild. In the next passage, Burroughs sees a cat also observing the chipmunk. He describes the action of the predator and the prey. He further engages the reader by wondering what the cat and the chipmunk will do. So this part right here is kind of important. He fills his writing with drama. He's not just describing the action or what the chipmunk's doing, but he's describing the action. There's going to be kind of like a villain that's introduced with this cat. And he's doing it so that it engages the reader. So off to paragraph 17 now, back to this chipmunk who's going to encounter what? He's going to encounter a cat. One summer day, I watched a cat for nearly a half hour trying her arts upon a chipmunk that sat under a pile of stone. Evidently, her game was to stalk him. I like that word right there. So I'm going to put an exclamation mark by it. That's a good word choice. She had cleared half the distance, or about 12 feet, that separated the chipmunk from the dense Norway spruce, when I had chanced to become a spectator of this little drama. There sat the cat, crouched low in the grass, her big yellow eyes fixed upon the chipmunk. And there sat the chipmunk at the mouth of his den, motionless, with his eyes fixed upon the cat. For a long time neither moved. Will the cat bind him with her fatal spell, I thought. So in this one we have this part. There's a cat coming about. It says, I watched a cat. And I really like this. It didn't just say like, tried to eat the chipmunk. But it said was trying her arts upon the chipmunk. So she's trying to catch him. But that trying his art sounds much more majestic, much more engaging. So I really like that word choice from them. So paragraph 16 talks about another element, talks about that drama. So I hope you notice in this portion, we're really seeing some action come about. And what mood did you notice? He's trying to create like a suspenseful mood. So let's keep going. Number 18. Sometimes her head slowly lowered and her eyes seemed to dilate, and I fancied she was about to spring, but she did not. The chipmunk finally quickly entered his den. The cat soon slunk away. So if we don't know what the word slunk is, we have this picture right here. And it's kind of nice because it's telling us that the chipmunk is safe. He ends up evading this cat. So now let's go to paragraph 20. We have this picture again. So let's see if this picture is going to help understand what's going on in 20 and 21. Burroughs was a lifelong nature writer who kept his eyes, ears, and heart open. He observed the world around him. He brought out his energy in a personal way, giving it a deeper emotional meaning. It is as if the reader is experiencing Burroughs' experience at the same time, making his view of the natural world ours too. Toward the end of his life, Burroughs wrote in the summit of the years about his time he had spent observing nature. The longer I live, the more my mind dwells upon the beauty and wonder of the land. I have loved the feel of the grass under my feet and the sound of running streams by my side. So he's saying this part, the longer I live, he experiences the beauty and wonder of this world. It's like, look at all this stuff around. Okay, let's finish it up. The hum of the wind in the treetops has always been good music to me, and the face of the fields has often comforted me more than the faces of men. I am in love with this world. So, what have we noticed? Well, we noticed that he's very good at creating something kind of mundane or drab like nature and turning it kind of into an adventure. So, let's write our part on this side over here for our summary. Let's see, hold on a sec, guys. There we go. So we're going to put our summary right here. And what do we notice in this section? Well, we notice something about the cat. A cat observes the chipmunk as he tries to capture it, period. Neither one moves, but suddenly the chipmunk escapes into his den and the cat leaves, period. So that's what's happened in this section right here. It's finishing up our story of the chipmunk. But notice, it actually doesn't end with the story of the chipmunk. We end with this part over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in this part, since it's at the end, I'm going to put what the main idea of the whole passage is. So not just the chipmunk, not just the biography of John Burroughs, but what has been going on throughout these 2 pages. So this is what I have. I have Burroughs expresses his love for nature through dramatic writing that excites the reader through a personal style that lets the reader feel what the narrator feels. So we're going to show this to you, and I want you to notice something about it. Let me make it a little bigger. And now look at this. This is the main idea of those pages that we've read. Now, you'll notice it actually doesn't talk about the chipmunk that much, because the whole purpose of this was for us to see how John Burroughs uses his writing to excite the reader about nature. It honestly wasn't about the chipmunk, because if it was, we wouldn't have all of this right here explaining, or this explaining. So the main purpose was him explaining how to excite the reader using that nature. Alright, I hope you guys do well. I'll talk to you later.